So I've been very busy. Last month was probably one of the most significant in a while for Bleep and for my indie app journey. Lots of things to share. First of all, I got my first very profitable month. Not a lot of money, a little bit under $500, but it's not the amount that counts, but the fact that with this money, I'm able to pay for all of the cost of running Bleep, which is very inspiring. And now I'm able to start to think about how to market it better and how to grow it as a business. So let's talk about like three things that I think that factored into the growth of this month. And they were all kind of like in a weird journey. It's kind of like how one thing led to another. So what's interesting about this month is that I've been kind of going on autopilot, and for the most part, that has been really good. And I'll go into those three things that I mentioned earlier. But I think it's also important to reflect on what went well and what needs to happen next. But with that in mind, let's jump into this. The beginning of the year, is coming back from the holidays and family time. I spent some time learning and exploring AppKit, which is traditional way of building applications. Even though that didn't necessarily like lead to much, it made me more confident about how to navigate the Apple ecosystem, which I think is going to be very important in the future. And it also inspired me to become a little bit more crafty with how I get things done. So the first one is really cool improved drag and drop interaction. The reason why this was important was Bleep is built around this functionality, so it's very important to be able to have like a smooth experience with drag and drop. So what I had before was not great. It kind of had like a choppy kind of interaction. When you drop, the preview would fade out, and it was just kind of like weird. So I kind of had to rebuild this a little bit more. It's kind of hacky how I did it, so I'm not too happy about it, but it works. The final result's still pretty good. I'm very happy with the result. So I posted an update about this on Threads and turned out to be quite a successful post that led to a lot of downloads. And Bleep on Mac is a paid app, so that led to profits, which is great. I think so far this business model of having like a free entry point on iOS and then for people to use the macOS app to sync and have like a more complete app works. In the future, I'm probably going to have like a freemium model where you have subscriptions that are only if you want to sync across devices, and then have like a lifetime version that you can pay for so you can own the software. So that's not going to change. But anyway, because of that, I started to get a lot of feedback from people. It made me realize that because Bleep is primarily a visual bookmarking tool, I mean, bookmarks can be links, notes, whatever. I had like a menu bar button that would work with Safari or Chrome, but it would only save websites, and it would be kind of awkward to set it up. So the first thing that I realized is as people are downloading the app and using it, I wanted to make it easier for them to add things to Bleep. So decided to actually implement a browser extension. And it turned out to be easier than I thought, which is nice. And I was able to reuse a lot of the code that I had for the menu bar integration, and it works quite well. You can just press a button and save the current website. You can also right click on images and save them directly into Bleep, which is nice. So I went pretty quick on that, got it done in a week, which made me really happy. And once I did it, like I use it all the time now. So it's kind of like a quick learning. As a developer of this app, you can kind of like adapt to the behavior of your app and you think it's fine. But once you get feedback from people, you can realize that there's a better way. It makes it better for people to understand how your app works, but it also is great for yourself, right? Like you kind of benefit as a user. And then last but not least is branding. I very much like the name Bleep. It's kind of like quirky and weird and doesn't really mean anything, so you can kind of give it your own meaning, but it's been difficult to build a brand around it. In particular, logos have been kind of difficult to come up with something that works, and the app icon itself. I've been noodling around with different concepts. I used Midjourney to generate some concepts of like a door, which makes sense, right? You have rooms in which you can add and categorize things. So the idea was to create this idea of like entering into a palace, like your mind palace and whatnot, but I felt distance from like the name Bleep. Even with that, I would have still felt kind of uncomfortable connecting the two. I even considered other names just to fit that concept. But then one day I started messing around with Sketch. And then with that, I kind of decided to do like a lowercase b, but in a very abstract way, just with shapes. So my first video on YouTube was actually me exploring like a hand pressed or kind of like the carved shape into stone, but I still wanted to have like a modern look. I experimented with different colors as well. I do like the salmon color that I have by default. It's a color that I particularly like, but the idea is to make Bleep very personal, which is why the UI itself is very clean and unopinionated. I want still to have like a strong brand presence somewhere. So to balance that off, considering the Bleep itself is kind of like a quirky name, I decided to kind of come up with like very bright colors that you as a user can customize. And as I started to evolve this concept more, I got feedback directly on threads as well. And one of the big surprises was that I actually got feedback from a famous typographer, Jonathan Hoffler. Some of you might know about him, but I've definitely used a lot of his fonts for coding, for different concepts and whatnot in the past. And then there was like a back and forth. I almost felt like I was like mentee being pushed to the finish line, and I landed on a really cool final logo. And now I'm very happy with it because it works on an icon, but even by itself, and particularly you can see that in the Safari extension, it looks very clean, artsy and conceptual, which I like too, but it's still recognizable, I think. I feel like that was like the last piece for me to feel like the brand is getting somewhere. What that now means is that I don't have to worry too much about that. Like I don't have that like lingering thought in my head. So now I can focus more into the product and marketing and other aspects that I think are going to make Bleep successful. I also wanted to chat a little bit more about the channel. I know that I've been a little bit inconsistent in the past few weeks. I've wanted to do more tutorials and there will be more of that, but I do think that at least having like a good monthly report, kind of like this one, will keep me accountable. But I think it's important to also document the journey of building an app as well, not just the actual work, but kind of what it's like to have different inspirations and different things that happen on a regular basis and how that inspires the process going forward. So in the few weeks, I'm going to be recording myself using the app itself. I do want to have more proper demos to include in different materials. There will be more working sessions, although they will probably be me building actual features live as I work. I've experimented with that a couple of videos ago, and I kind of want to keep doing that. So more to expect there. But yeah, lots of things that have happened. It's been a very busy month, but it's also very exciting. I'm very excited for 2025. I feel like after all of these years of work, I'm finally starting to seeing some proper momentum. And yeah, I hope that you can continue to follow along. And with that in mind, if you like this and you kind of want to see more of this, please like it and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.